Trump saying make America great again. Troy Ave saying bacon water whip, wait again.
I'm in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value.
Yo, you hear me? I don't hear you. Yo, you got your mic on? I don't hear you.
All right, am I back on? Testing. Smoke, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell, man. Bro, talk be on some bullshit, yo. Yeah, I don't know what's going on, man. Before you can even punch in on your headphones and stuff, now I got the headphones cut in, and yeah, the shit is crazy. So that's a lot of editing I'm going to have to do in the beginning of this show. But anyway, what's going on, Smoke? You came in a little rough, pause.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's a big Saturday, that's all.
Yeah, well, look, now you know why Saturdays is real, right? Having to do
I thought it was me. I'm like that. I thought it was my headphones. I'm like, oh, it can't. But I'm hearing the beeping. I'm like, it can't be the headphones. You know what I'm saying? But
yeah, I kept hearing beeping too. I kept hearing beeping. Yeah, I ain't get what was going on. Shit, that threw me off. Alright, damn, man. So yeah, so the title is Congressional Black Caucus. We have a lot to lose. I'm gonna be reading and really reviewing and looking over that whole letter that they sent to Trump. Right? It all stemmed from a article I saw today called Congresswoman says Trump turned deaf ear on the black community concerns. So I'm going to read that. I'm going to read the letter they sent Trump just to show you what failed leadership sound like. Just to let you hear what bullshit sound like when you're listening, not to give away the part, but just in the article they're going to contradict themselves. And it's like, how do y'all? It's just weird. But I don't want to get deep into that right now because I want to get into the point of who these people are, what they represent, are supposed to represent, and things of that nature. But before we continue, let me get this caller in. 314-381. Name and where you calling from.
It's Bianchi. I'm listening to your narrative, man. Look like you're getting ready to get into some good stuff.
Yeah, man.
So go ahead. Don't let me delay you. I'm gonna sit back and listen.
Yeah, we're gonna try to jump in. Yeah, we're gonna do this. It's a little rough starting because of the audio, but yeah, we're gonna try to get into some real conversation today.
Go ahead and get into it, man. We listening.
All right, man. Peace, brother. All right, so let's set it up. So now, so you have the article. You know the article I'm reading from and things, right?
Yeah, I got the that I was looking through it when I got back in. So yeah, I'm reviewing it. But
all right,
anything.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we reviewing, reading from, and we're looking over the same material. Right now, I'm trying to pull up.
Yeah, I got the PDF.
You have it?
Yeah.
All right, great. Now, let me read this right here. Congressional Black Caucus, established in 1971. All right. Since its establishment in 1971, the Congressional Black Caucus has been committed to using the full constitutional power, statutory authority, and financial resources of the federal government to ensure that African Americans and other marginalized communities in the United States have the opportunity to achieve the American dream. As part of this commitment, the CBC have fought for the past 46 years to empower these citizens and address their legislative concerns by pursuing a policy agenda that includes, but is not limited to, the following: reforming the criminal justice system and eliminating barriers to reentry, combating voter suppression, expanding access to world-class education from pre-K through post-secondary level, expanding access to quality, affordable health care and eliminating racial health disparities, expanding access to 21st century technologies including broadband, strengthening protection for workers and expanding access to full, fairly compensated employment, expanding access to capital, contracts, and counseling for minority-owned businesses, and promoting U.S. foreign policy initiatives in Africa and other countries that are consistent with the fundamental rights of human dignity. Now, before I continue, I just want to read over again the agenda that includes, but is not limited. As part of this commitment, the CBC has fought for the past 46 years to empower these citizens and address their legislative concerns by pursuing a policy agenda that includes, but is not limited to, the following: reforming the criminal justice system and eliminating barriers to reentry, combating voter suppression, expanding access to world-class education from pre-K through post-secondary levels, expanding access to quality, affordable health care, and eliminating racial health disparities, expanding access to 21st century technologies, including broadband, strengthening protections for workers, and expanding access to full, fairly compensated employment, expanding access to capital, contracts, and counseling for minority-owned businesses, and promoting U.S. foreign policy initiatives in Africa, and promoting U.S. foreign policy initiatives in Africa and other countries that are consistent with the fundamental rights of human dignity. Now, Smoke, let's talk about that. Because they're saying for the last 46 years, they fought. They use the word empower these citizens. They said address their legislative concerns by pursuing policy agendas, and these policy agendas is reforming the criminal justice system and allowing ex-offenders re-entry back into society, combating voter suppression, expanding world-class education, expanding access to affordable health care, expanding access to technologies, strengthening protections for workers, and expanding access towards contracts, minority-owned business counseling, and capital, and promoting U.S. foreign policies in predominantly black countries. How do any of that strengthen the black people? How do any of that strengthen us as a community? How do that strengthen us as a race? How do that protect us from racism, white supremacy? How do that solve any problems? By expanding access and strengthening protections on shit that's there, and expanding access to shit other people have. Like, I don't understand that. Like, not one agenda in the 46 years have anything to do with real empowerment. None of that. I'm going to continue, but see, I'm going to go back. See, it's going to make sense. I'm going to draw it all together, because I'm going to go back into the Martin Luther King book. Where do we go from here? I'm going to go back.
Which chapter you are on this? We have a lot to lose. That's what you're reading from right now.
No. I'm just reading who is the Congressional Black Caucus. What are they?
All right, cool. All right,
you know what I'm saying? First, we need to know who they are, and you know what I'm gonna do too? I should have did it today. We might even try to do it if we got some time, right? I'm gonna look up the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. And I'm going to look up the Congressional Cannabis Caucus. And I'm going to look up all these other caucuses, and I want to see what the fuck their agenda is. And I want to see what have they been fighting for the past whatever years. And I want to see how much of their stuff is along the same lines as ours. I want to know how many of them is fighting to ensure that their group and other marginalized communities have the same dreams. I want to see how much of what every other caucus is doing differ what ours is doing. You know what I'm saying? I should have did that, but
yeah, I'm pulling up some stuff right now, so we can try to.
All right. So I'm gonna continue reading on who they are, and then and when you have it set up, then we'll just read it through. For the 115th Congress, the CBC has a historic 49-member of the U.S. House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate, representing 78 million Americans. 24% of those U.S. population and 17 of the total U.S. population, and 17 million African Americans. 41%. Let me read that again. Hold on, because I thought I heard something weird. For the 115th Congress, the CBC has a historic 49 members of the U.S. House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate, representing 78 million Americans, 24% of the total U.S. population, and 17 million African Americans, 41% of the total U.S. African American population. In addition, the CBC represents almost a fourth of the House Democratic Caucus. The CBC is engaged at the highest level of Congress with members who serve in House leadership and are full committee and subcommittee ranking members. Rep. James E. Claiborne of South Carolina, Democrat, serve as the Assistant Democratic Leader in the House. 6 CBC members serving as ranking members of full House committees, and 31 CBC members serve as ranking members on House and Senate subcommittees. While the CBC has predominantly been made up of members of the Democratic Party, the founding members of the caucus envisioned a nonpartisan organization. Consequently, the CBC has a long history of bipartisanship, collaboration, and members who are both Democrat and Republican. As founding member Rep. William L. Clay Sr. said when the CBC was established, black people have no permanent friends, no permanent enemies, just permanent interests. And we're going to keep that saying that this brother, the founding member, William L. Clay Sr., we're going to keep this saying in the heart of this whole conversation. Black people have no permanent friends, no permanent enemies, just permanent interests. Most important about the CBC agenda for the 115th Congress can be found here, and more information about the CBC task force for the 15th Congress can be found here. Okay, so that's the CBC. Now, Smoke, what information do you have for other caucuses?
I was just while he was talking, I was just doing a quick search on the. Well, the first one you had mentioned was the Hispanic Caucus. So I just went to their site. They got a site, chci.org, the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute.org. So under there, under like the About Us, they say under here, for 40 years, the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute has forged a critical path.
Wait. Because you know me, I like time. You said for 40 years. And Congressional Black Caucus is for the past 46 years. So we 6 years older than the Hispanic Caucus.
According to this.
Okay. Now let's continue.
40 years has forged a critical pathway to developing the next generation of Latino leaders, creating a transformative and lasting impact of Latino youth in our nation. So it says, like this is under like the About Us category. So this is like the things they're promoting about themselves. So it says, like the first bullet point they have is like each year CHCI educates, empowers, and connects more than 1,600 students and young professionals by creating opportunities for a brighter future. The CHCI experience places Latino youth on a new trajectory by inspiring high school and college completion, and then providing programs to explore public policy and leadership in our nation's capital. These vital opportunities empower Latinos for great personal and professional achievement, transforming the lives of program participants. So it's like another bullet point.
Wait. I know we're on the same page now, Smokes. I don't want to call you out in front of everybody. I'm thinking you're being a little racist here. Now, one time did you mention minority or people of color? So maybe
well, I'm just,
keeping on that.
Hey, I'm just reading. Don't shoot the messenger.
I just want to make sure you're not skipping over minority, people of color, marginalized people. These code words that we use.
But I do want to read that first bullet point back again, though. So
okay.
It says, creating opportunities for a brighter future. The CHCI experience places Latino youth on a new trajectory by inspiring high school.
Wait, you keep missing in people of color.
No, just Latino.
Oh, black and brown.
Latino.
Oh, that's crazy. All right, continue.
Places Latino youth on a new trajectory by inspiring high school and college completion, and then providing programs to explore public policy and leadership in our nation's capital. These vital opportunities empower Latinos for great personal and professional achievement.
Not people of color, not minorities. What's the other fancy little word that the Congressional Black Caucus said? Since its establishment in 1971, the Congressional Black Caucus has been committed to using the full constitutional power, statutory authority, and financial resources of the black community? No. Of the black economy? No. Of the federal government to ensure that African Americans and other marginalized communities in the United States have opportunities to achieve the American dream. But then when you're listening to the Latino caucus, they're telling you what they want to do for Latinos and the Latino youth. But here go our dumb asses with Roland Martin. You see this Congressman King? I think his name was Steve King. Ain't gonna be no beef between black and brown. I just be looking at it, I swear, I look at black people sometimes, and I just say to myself, if I wasn't black, I would be laughing with the rest of everybody else too. You see what I'm saying? But I love my people too much to laugh. You know what I'm saying? But I can see why other races of people laugh at us, because you literally got to sit back and just listen to the shit that come out of our mouths. The shit that we consider powerful. The shit that we think is, you know what I'm saying, like the backward shit that we do. And it's not the youth. If it's a young person out there looking at me like, nah, man, it's black and brown. We got to stick together. You know what I'll say to that young person? I'll say, man, you're too young to even know the game. You're too young to even know the game. Let me school you to this. The sad part is when you seeing these old people sitting out here talking this shit that they know and good and damn well ain't gonna work. But see, they selfish because they know they about to be dead. So they don't got to deal with the consequences. You see what I'm saying? They cool. They like, shit, this time might be fucked up, but it's better than how I grew up. Fuck it. And that's why they're giving all this bad advice. Because this is some bad advice. This is some bad advice. So that's a congressional. So let me read up on the Congressional Cannabis Caucus real quick. The Congressional Cannabis Caucus is a bipartisan registered congressional member organization in the United States Congress, which was formed during the 115th United States Congress in 2017. The caucus was founded by Republican Dana Rauschenbacher and Don Young, and Democrat Earl Blumen, and Jared Polis. The goal of the caucus is to harmonize federal law that prohibit marijuana and recreational cannabis use with state laws that permit it. They talk about the background. They speak on the members, the House, where they're from, what they represent. The amendment prevented the United States Justice, or how they coerced co-authored the Roe-Rapp-Bircher-Farr Amendment, which was passed by the 113th United States Congress in 2014. The amendment prevented the United States Department of Justice from using its funding to challenge states that have approved medical cannabis laws. Meanwhile, Earl Blumenauer, whatever, a member of House of Representatives from Oregon in the Democratic Party, supported Oregon ballot measure 91 in 2014, legalizing recreational cannabis in Oregon. Blah, 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 blah. Because you basically get the drift. The Congressional Cannabis Caucus, fighting for the rights of states to grow and cultivate marijuana. The Hispanic Caucus, fighting for the rights of Latinos. The Black Caucus, fighting for the rights of everybody else and for the rights of black people to work. Ridiculous. So one more thing I want to read, which is just what is the Congressional Caucus? A Congressional Caucus is a group of members of the United States Congress that meets to pursue common legislative objectives. To pursue. So let me read this again. A Congressional Caucus is a group of members of the United States Congress that meets to pursue common legislative objectives. Formally, caucuses are formed as congressional members' organizations through the United States House of Representatives and the United States Senate, and govern under the rule of these chambers. In addition to the term caucus, they are sometimes called conferences, especially Republican ones, coalitions, study groups, task force, or work groups. Many other countries use the term parliamentary group. For example, the UK Parliament has many all-party parliamentary groups. Hold on for a second. Go ahead. Alright, so it goes.
I didn't even hear you.
Oh, my bad. Alright, so it goes. Party caucus and conference in the United States caucus. The largest caucus and party caucuses and conferences in the United States Congress, which are the partisan caucuses comprising all members of one house from one party, either Democrat or Republican, in addition to any independent member who may caucus with either party. These are the House Democratic Caucus, House Republican Conference, Senate Democratic Caucus, and Senate Republican Conference. The caucuses meet regularly in closed sessions to set legislative agenda. When they say and I'll look that up, when they say legislative agenda, they're talking about law. Select committee members and chairs, and hold elections to choose various floor leaders. They also oversee the four Hill committees. They also oversee the 4 Hill committees, political party committees that work to elect members of their own party to Congress. Then they talk about the racial and ethical caucuses. All right, here we go. Now we get to the juice of it. Among the most visible caucuses are those components of members sharing the same race or ethnic group. The most high profile of these represent people of color. These include the Congressional Black Caucus for African Americans, the 2 Hispanic caucuses. Right? Now watch this, Smoke.
Wow.
The 2 Hispanic caucuses, the Congressional Hispanic Caucus and the Congressional Hispanic Conference. So what's the difference between the 2? Remember, caucuses are Democrats and conferences are Republicans, right? So they represent each other on both sides. So they have the Congressional. So we have the Congressional Black Caucus for African Americans, which is just Democrats. Even though they'll say their work bipartisan, is Democratic based. They said the two Hispanic caucuses, the Congressional Hispanic Caucus for Hispanic Democrats and the Congressional Hispanic Conference for Hispanic Republicans. Congressional Republicans formerly belonging to the Hispanic Caucus, but later split off to form the Hispanic Conference. That's how that shit happened. The Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus represents members who are Asian American and Pacific Islanders, but they are open to other members as well because they're that small of a group. Then they have the American Sikh Congressional Caucus to represent the interests of the American Sikh community. In addition, there are European American ethnic caucuses such as the Congressional Sikh Caucus. They have a Congressional Bike Caucus that works to promote cycling. You see what I'm saying? Like, this is how this game goes. Everybody have their group, and every group represents them. So why the fuck is the Black Caucus representing all minority groups when every minority group have their own group? You see what I'm saying? So that's backward move number one. That's backward move number one when it comes to black people, when I'm speaking on the backwardness shit that we do in our failed leadership. Because if we're sitting over here and we're thinking that, oh, we're dealing with racism now, we're not dealing with racism. If you're thinking, oh, this is white supremacy, this shit ain't white supremacy. Literally, this shit is failed black leadership. That's why they keep pointing to niggas killing each other in Chicago. You see what I'm saying? Niggas killing each other in Chicago, in Louisiana, in St. Louis, in Detroit, in Brooklyn, in Atlanta. All these niggas killing each other don't change shit. None of that shit affects nobody's life except the family members of the deceased and the shooters. That's it. The people that is supposed to represent us in these caucuses, they're the ones fucking up. The business communities that rather compete against black, exploit black, so they can live amongst white people in high white society, they're the ones that's failing us. You know what I'm saying?
Benefit. The financial benefit.
So they can ball with the rich white people.
Pretty much.
Off the expenses of black people. Russell Simmons with his Rush card. You see what I'm saying? These are the people that is selling us the whole white supremacy racism game, right?
As long as our problems exist, they exist, and they exist. Live those lives and fund their future generations off of the black struggle. You know what I'm saying?
Fundraise. You could fundraise. You can have $5,000 plates to talk about the oppression of black and brown and minority people. That's why they include a whole wide group. They include a whole wide group because they know eventually nobody's going to give a fuck about the issues with black people after fucking 46 years. After the Civil Rights Movement. After 46 years of not doing shit. Nobody want to hear that no more. So then they said, well, we can't just talk on black, so let's say black and brown. And they say black, brown, and minorities and people of color and gays and lesbians and we're going to include everybody. Why? Because your struggle don't matter no more. We already said what the Hispanics is, what, 40 years?
Yeah, 40.
40 years, right? 40 years. We 46, they 40. They outnumber us in the United States. How'd that happen? Now, we know it's not through birth. Don't let that myth fool you. It ain't through birth. That was straight import. No exports. Import. So, how they outnumber you? How they got more political power than you? How they got 2 caucuses and you got 1? How you still screaming about jobs and these people got economies? But we don't get it. Ain't nothing we doing here in Black America Radio you can't do yourself. Ain't no thought. This ain't no special thought. Ain't no ancient thought. It ain't nothing. No foo-foo-la, no spookinism. None of that stuff. We got a black caucus. They have an Asian caucus. They have an Hispanic caucus. Read up on other people's caucuses. And when you read their caucuses, that'll give you a better read yours last. Don't read yours first. Read anything that black people have. Read that shit last. Read what everybody else who's beating you in the race. Read what their caucuses, their representatives, their ideology, their thought process, everything. And what you're gonna see? Everybody follows the same pattern. Then when you read black people, you're going to see where we mess up at. Because we don't follow the same pattern. So read everybody else's shit. Pay attention to what their representatives speak and what they talk about. Even the gays. Listen to them. And when you listen, then listen to what black people say. And then you'll understand how stupid we sound. When you listen to gay people say, we don't want the rights for gays, minorities, people of color. No, they fighting for their shit. They fighting for their shit. Mexicans ain't marching for DACA and the mass incarceration of black men. No, they fighting for DACA. That's it. We don't even know what the fuck the streets is fighting for. But I guarantee you, black people ain't on the books. But when you speak on black people, what we scream. And remember, Smoke, we already showed the clip where the white man hustled the black civil rights dude into including the Hispanics into the black struggle. When he asked him, so is your movement just about the Negro? He said, oh no, the Latino too. And Malcolm X said, they wasn't enslaved here. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? There's no way. We're not supposed to be in this position that we're in, right? So we got an hour before left, right? Guest calling number 646-716-4654. Congressional Black Caucus. We have a lot to lose letter. We're going to start to read on that. But yeah, so you got anything you said? Anything you got to say? I'm about to look through this book real quick from Martin Luther King, where he talks about how the little that feel good stuff that we got, it was cool, but that shit ain't really mean shit.
Yeah, I mean, I thought we was really gonna get into that, to the actual letter itself. No, I want to get that at the 1 hour mark. I want to get that at the 1 hour mark. We got 3 more minutes. I'm trying to build up the show. You know what I'm saying? Because once I read this shit, it's gonna be like, fuck out here. Once I read this shit, it's gonna be like, yeah. I mean,
out of here.
Overall, it's just like, it just shows it just shows the time that's being wasted. You know what I'm saying? And to me, it's really blatant. It's like they know that these policies and procedures or the direction that they carrying with the Congressional Black Caucus is not something that's going to improve the community. It's like the people that sit on these boards or sit behind those that sit at those tables, they know that shit. It's like It's not like they just misdirected. You know what I'm saying? You could just tell in the purposes when we're just reading off of what the Hispanic Congress wants to do. I mean, I had the Asian Pacific. You mentioned them. Their purposes is pretty much the same shit. It's like nobody else is worried about other groups and shit. It's like they're there for their purpose for them. You know what I'm saying? So that's the number one problem. And then when you contacted me earlier, and you were saying that we were gonna speak about that, the letter to Trump. I looked it up. It's like 125 pages. You know what I'm saying? That's on the at least in the PDF. That's how long it is. And I was just looking through it, and I'm just like I'm waiting to see something that's like mind blowing, or something that's like really gonna help. But it's like,
see, we got to remember it's a whole story with it. It's also, well, I'll get into that. Let me just read this from Martin Luther King. Yeah. Then next we're gonna get into the letter.
Right.
So this is Martin Luther King. Where do we go from here? Now you gotta remember, if the CBC was created in 1971, King was killed in what? 67.
67.
So it's only a couple of, late 60s. So a couple of years later comes this Congressional Black joint, right? Now watch this. So now it goes. The practical course. Alright, where it goes. Alright. Alright, so it goes. The practical course of change for the nation up to this point has been cheap. The limited reforms has been obtained at bargain rate. There are no expenses and no taxes are required for Negroes to share lunch counters, libraries, parks, hotels, and other facilities with whites. Even the psychological adjustment is far from formidable. Having exaggerated the emotional difficulties for decades, when demands for new conduct became inescapable, white Southerners may have trembled under the strain, but they did not collapse. Even the more significant change involved in voter registration required neither large monetary nor psychological sacrifice. Spectacular and turbulent events that dramatized the demand created an erroneous impression that a heavy burden was involved. The real course lies ahead. The stiffening of white resistance is a recognition of that fact. The discount education given Negroes will in the future have to be purchased at full price if quality education is to be realized. Jobs are harder and are costlier to create than voting rolls. The eradication of slums housing millions is complex far beyond integrating buses and lunch counters, right? So then he goes, right, and that's when they talk about whatever the whites got good, we have less of it. Whatever the whites have bad, we got double that. So now this is King telling you now that the little sitting at the lunch counter strides, that ain't shit. You know what I'm saying? This is it ain't cost nothing to do that. You know what I'm saying? All of that wasn't really too much shit. And the real shit is gonna be when you basically elevate the black race up out of the below poverty situation that we're in. The point of me reading that is because this is 1967, right? Now let's get into this letter. Before we get into the letter, let's get into the story that made me search the letter. Congresswoman says Trump turns deaf ear on the black community's concerns. Okay, let's see. Nearly 5 months to the day before his inauguration, then Republican nominee Donald Trump tried to pitch his campaign to black voters with a single question: what do you have to lose? 3 months after his inauguration, the Congressional Black Caucus eagerly responded with a 130-page policy document entitled "We Have a Lot to Lose," outlining legislation that they say would help African Americans and similarly marginalized communities. There go that dumb shit again. That request fell on deaf ears. Rep. Barbara Lee, the Democrat out of Oakland, said Saturday at an annual State of Black America panel at Laney College, she encouraged people at the Making Connections event to be at the table with the Black agenda. Excuse me, let me read that again. That request fell on deaf ears. Barbara Lee said Saturday at an annual State of Black America panel at Laney College. She encouraged people at the Making Connections event to be at the table with the Black agenda and demand those resources with or without help from the administration. Before I continue, Smoke, they're going to say it. You know what? No, let me just read it. Remember, President Trump said, what do we have to lose to the black community? Well, we answered him and sent him an entire agenda as it relates to the African American community, Lee said. Trump invited us to come to the White House, and Cedric Richmond, our chair, said no. He was fully disgusted with our president and his agenda on all of the issues that we're talking about today. Right?
Oh,
Then he goes, the Congressional... All right, let's say... had planned to attend the Oakland event but stayed back home with her. Okay. It goes, the Congressional Black Caucus is not only the heart and soul of the resistance movement in Congress, but also leading on so many issues that we care about here in the Bay Area, Lee, a caucus member, said. I'm going to stop there. No, let me read the last two paragraphs, then I'm going to stop. The panel highlighted a number of concerns for the group of a few hundred people, predominantly African Americans, in the audience, including economic disparity between black and white communities, homelessness, housing struggles, and community justice reform. Speakers at the Oakland event included Lee, San Francisco Supervisor Malaya Cohen, Oakland Councilwoman Lynette Gibson, Miguel Henney, Mark Ridley Thomas, and Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors and National Urban League Vice President Don Cravens Jr. Now here's my issue with that, Smoke. How in the hell do you say that the Congressional Black Caucus is head of the resistance movement, right, against Trump, but then say Trump turned a blind, deaf to the black community.
Right.
That makes sense. And let me read again the founding member of the Congressional Black Caucus. Black people have no permanent friends, no permanent enemies, just permanent interests. That's it. Just permanent interests. So you're going to sit here now and say, see, because this is the talk that we hear, and we don't understand the little weird shit that's being said, and why, and then when nothing happens, we wonder why nothing happens. But you can hear nothing's going to happen by listening to the damn word. How you going to turn around and say, she encouraged people at the Making Connections event to be at the table with the black agenda and demand those resources with or without help from the administration? Cool. That sounds like somebody trying to fight for the black community. Your founding member, William L. Clay Sr., said, when he established the CBC, black people have no permanent friends, no permanent enemies, just permanent interests. You says be at the table with the black agenda and demand those resources with or without the administration's help. Then turns around and says that the Congressional Black Caucus is not only the heart and soul of the resistance movement in Congress, but also leading on so many issues that we care about here in the Bay Area. So you're complaining that the man that you're fighting against isn't listening to your concerns? Am I hearing that correctly? That makes no damn sense to me, right? So then it goes this. Concerns about economic empowerment dominated much of the conversation. We need our community members to show up at board meetings for Google, said East Palo Alto Councilwoman Lisa Guttier. Now, pay attention to this, Smoke, because this is something I always try to explain to black people, too. When you listen to these people talk, if they're not talking about building an economy, then they're just talking shit. When you hear them talk about economic empowerment, remember, Smoke, we talked about that yesterday.
Right.
Economic power. What is economic power? When you produce something and you can trade what you produced with somebody else, that's economic empowerment. So when they say concerns about economic empowerment dominated much of the conversation, and then the quote is, we need our community members to show up at board meetings for Google. You know what they're really saying? We need black people to demand work. We want jobs. We want more black people to be hired at these high-paying positions so we could get more money. That is not economic empowerment, because you're not generating no product, no product to sell. All you're doing is working. That's like homeless people saying they have economic power because of how much money they generate by panhandling. But if they're not producing shit, all it takes is for the people giving you money not to give you the money no more. And your GDP, your GDP go from $1 trillion to zero. Just that quick. $1 trillion to zero, just that quick. So you gotta watch when these people talk about economic empowerment and economic freedom and economic this and economic that. Look up the word economic. It'll let you know economic don't even have a definition. How about that, Smoke? There's not even the economic isn't even no real word like that. You see what I'm saying? Because economic is what comes when you have an economy. You dig what I'm saying? Then economics is formed. But if you don't have an economy, you can't have a conversation dealing in economics. Simple and plain. So that's a little wool going painted over the eyes. So then it goes. Right now, given the Trump's administration, we're in the resistance mode of cuts and trying to make sure we move forward in the next few years. Lee responded, and Cohen pointed out that the San Francisco completed a deal in February to make the city college free for all city residents. It says, an attempt to improve the circumstances of American workers was part of the Black Caucus request to the Trump administration in the lengthy policy document they sent in. Right. Then they say, at Saturday's panel, each guest received a packet that included printouts of letters from the caucus to the Trump administration. One dated June 21st declined an invitation to the White House because your administration has yet to provide a response to the policies we presented. I'm going to read that again. Right? I'm going to read that again. At Saturday's panel, each guest received a packet that included printouts of letters from the caucus to the Trump administration. One dated June 21st declined the invitation to the White House because your administration, meaning the Trump administration, has yet to provide a response to the policies we presented. Right? Now let me go right back to the top where it says, Barbara Lee of Oakland said she encouraged people at the Making Connections event to be at the table with the Black agenda and demand those resources with or without the help of the administration, right? And the founding member of the CBC states, Black people have no permanent friends, no permanent enemies, just permanent interests. So how do you have a letter June 21st? Now, Trump was inaugurated, January is inauguration? February or some shit? Do you know?
I want to say January.
All right, let's say January, February, right? One or the other, one or two, right? Boom. June is what, the 6th month?
Yep.
So this is about 4 or 5 months. So this is about
at least 5.
At least 5 months. At least 5 months. And in the fifth month, a White House invite was declined because the Trump administration has yet to provide a response to the policies that was presented.
It was January 20th was the inauguration, so June 21st. That's 5 months
perfect.
later.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Ain't that perfect? Literally. That's perfect. So literally 5 months later, you started to toot your nose up. Now you want to decline invites. What happened to the fight? What happened to there's no permanent enemies? There's permanent interests, right? Richmond criticized proposed cuts to Pell Grants that help low-income students and called Attorney General Jeff Sessions' rollback of Obama-era efforts to lessen penalties for nonviolent drug offenders and attempt to accelerate the failed war on drugs that will continue to wreck the Black community and exacerbate our nation's shameful mass incarceration. The other date was September 27th. So that's June, July, August, September. That's September 27th. So that's what? 3 months after the other letter.
Yeah,
to express
8 months.
Okay, so 8 months after after the inauguration, he gets into office. Not even a year. The other dated September 27th expressed utter disgust with your handling of race relations in America in general, and more specifically, your calculated divisive response to nationwide demonstration against police brutality and racial injustice by professional football players, owners, coaches, and countless other patriots. Reflecting on the many economic, social, and political harms that black community members say need dire attention, Lee said in her closing remarks, by uniting with both the local and global community of people of African ascent is the only way we're ever going to be free in this country. We are concerned about playing the race card and don't talk about our issues enough, Lee said. Be at the table with the black agenda and demand those resources. That's the ending. I'm going to read the ending again. We are concerned about playing the race card and don't talk about our issues enough, Lee said. Be at the table with the black agenda and demand those resources. Now, this is what kills me about this whole story, because the story went back and forth. The shit went from we are the heart and soul of resisting against Trump, but we need to be at the table demanding our agenda be heard and the resources. Wow, you got members of the Congressional Black Caucus not even fighting for resources or for our agenda. They just bitching. Okay, so now that's done, right, Smoke? So now let's get into the meat. Let's get now into the letter. We have a lot to lose. Solutions to advance black families in the 21st century. Now, when I'm reading this, black people, black America, I don't want you to have on your black mind frame and your black hat and your black mind right now. Right now, I want you to listen to this and imagine yourself Donald Trump. Whatever you think of Donald Trump, right? Old, big old, white, fat racist, right? Don't like black people, right? Okay. Imagine now the person representing you says, well, Trump, we wrote our agenda and put it on the table, and this is what we want, and you need to address this. So let's now read this through the eyes of a white person who don't fuck with black people. We have a lot to lose. Oh, this is I'm just on the title right now. We have a lot to lose. All right. All right. So they got all of the. They got the 115th Congressional Black Caucus officers. They got everybody named. They got a picture of everybody, and now they got the table of contents. Executive summary, founders of the CBC, history, African American history, history of the CBC, solutions, introductions, voting rights, criminal justice reform, economic justice, education, workforce, healthcare, environmental justice, rural America, CBC legislation, works cited. That's the table of contents. We're not going to read executive summary. We're not going to read founders of the CBC. We're not going to read history. Let's go from 7. No, we're not going to read African American history because remember we're thinking like we're Trump. Imagine you, black man, and a white person come and plop this on your desk and tells you this is what white America want, right? This is a solution to the advanced white families, and then they got all these white people and white faces, and they're telling you the founders of the Congressional White Caucus, the history, white American history, the history of you don't care about that shit. Let's go straight down to 15 smoke solutions. Right? Let's go down to solutions, 15. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's about, right? These black people right here said they want me to read this shit. Let me read this shit. They want solutions. Let's get into solutions then. That's all I want to hear. What do these Negroes want? Solutions for the African American community. The CBC has always been committed to action infused with moral clarity and a desire to honestly and forthrightly represent the interests of our constituents, the African American community, and all Americans. God damn it. Like,
ain't even
Members have always been at the forefront of issues such as economic security and empowerment. And that's why I made sure I said that, Smoke. When you're not hearing economy, when they're not telling you economy, everything else they're saying is bullshit. Members has always been at the forefront of issues such as economic security and empowerment, community development, education, justice, and civil rights, criminal justice reform, and labor and empowerment. They said members has always been at the forefront of issues such as economic security and empowerment, community development. What fucking community they develop? I need to know that, because yeah, I need to know that. That's crazy. Education, justice, and okay. Our collective effort has echoed through Congress for decades, and together we will continue to stand for the many Americans who expect the caucus to be sound and principled leaders dedicated to progress. Accordingly, we highlight the following problems across several facets of black life and offer bold solution to advance black families in the 21st century. Accordingly, we highlight the following problems across several facets of black life and offer bold solutions to advance black families in the 21st century. So let's see. Let's see how bold, and let's see this 49-member, historic number of 49 that's supposed to represent us. Let's hear what their bold solutions are after they address our problems. The CBC called on the Trump administration to recognize the persistent discrimination against African Americans through the nation's troublesome history and employ policies The CBC calls on the Trump administration to recognize the persistent discrimination against African Americans throughout this nation's troubled history and employ policies and practices to restore these communities. So basically, we asking the Trump administration, the administration that we're fighting against. This is what I want you to understand. I just want black people to understand. We are the we are the heart and soul of the resistance movement against Trump. But then we're going to slap out what we want Trump administration to do, and we want him to recognize the persistent discrimination against black people throughout this goddamn nation. And we want him to employ policies and practices. That's what we want. The person that we're resisting, we're fighting against. Okay. So they say the problem. African Americans fought and died for access to the ballot. We was discriminated and disenfranchised. We marched in 1965. John Lewis, a prominent member of the CBC who served in the United House Caucus representative of 1987. The Voting Rights led to the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. The Voting Rights Act prohibits discrimination on the basis of race and bans voting practices and procedures that discriminate against minority voters. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court. Then they say the Voting Rights Act is the hallmark of the civil rights movement and finally made good on a century-long promise that all men and now women have the rights to vote. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court 2013 decision in Shelby County versus Holder invalidated the pre-clearance formula, with the majority of the court arguing that it was based on outdated data. Thus, 2016 was the first presidential election in 50 years without the full force of the Voting Rights Act. So they're saying they lost a Supreme Court order in 2013 because they're saying that they're basing law that was passed, and they're saying, you're basing it off of outdated information, showing that black people is still stuck on old method while white people done advanced and remixed how they was going to fuck you over. While they advancing their shit, their tactics, we're still using old 1960s shit. That's why they cutting shit down, because they like, oh, okay, so we can't be in front of the ballot box no more with bats and nothing like that. Cool. We're going to figure out another way that's not on the books, so technically it's not illegal. Because remember, Smoke, white people worry about what's legal and illegal. Black people worry about what's right and what's wrong. So if it's not on the books, it's not illegal, so technically I'm not doing nothing wrong. So that's how I'm going to disenfranchise black people, while black people still uses old examples of disenfranchisement, and the Supreme Court is using that to fucking weaken the Voting Rights Act. So one legislation is these 49 congressional black people. What are they passing that modernize the Voting Rights Act or make it a permanent act or strengthen it or anything? None of that makes sense to me. And keep in mind, Trump won by using the voting game, not using what everybody else is doing. He said, listen, all we need is these right here. As long as we get these, this is how we're going to get that. And we get this win, we're going to do it like that. So why would you think he's going to strengthen voting rights and voting policies when they have a whole, they're not even basing their shit on voting shit. That's not even important to them like that. They're getting their shit a different way. They're getting their shit through fucking electoral shit, presidentially, or through small county shit, or disenfranchisement and cheating. If that's who you're dealing with, why would you put up voting if you know you're not going to pass that? Solution. The CBC supports policies that ensure a more perfect union by expanding, not restriction, access to the ballot for all Americans. Restore the full protections of the Voting Rights Act. Challenge attempts to disenfranchise voters. End modern-day poll tax. Insensitize automatic voter registration, online registration, same-day registration, expand the use of absentee ballots. So the first solution that the CBC have is the voting rights. They're saying the problem is black people are disenfranchised and not voting. Black people are disenfranchised and not voting because we don't understand that you need money to play the political game. You need economy to play the political game. Not economic power. You need an economy. And as long as you don't have an economy, we're always going to lose the political game. So the reason why that's a problem because we don't have an economy. You know what I'm saying? So for that to be the first problem, and the solution is what? For them to make the voting more beneficial for blacks. So you're going to ask the white racists resisting to make voting more beneficial towards blacks. All right. So what's the next? What's the next?
It's like old thinking too. It's like
all old thinking.
It's like it's kind of like the residue of the civil rights people. You know what I'm saying? It's like that's what they think back to the King days and the Voting Rights Act. So it's like the first thing they want to do is put that in the forefront. You know what I'm saying? It just seems like that. Because I mean, when you list the shit there, it's like pretty much it's just. I mean, none of this is gonna work without an economy, like you say. But even so, it's just like a bunch of feel good stuff in there. You know what I mean? Like,
and not only feel good, but not only feel good. Let's not forget this: if you go to the Congressional Black Caucus to find out who they are about the Congressional Black Caucus, it says as part of this committee, the Congressional Black Caucus have fought for the past 46 years. And this is their agenda. Reforming the criminal justice system and eliminating barriers to reentry, combating voter suppression, expanding access to world-class education, expanding access to quality, affordable health care, expanding access to 21st century technologies, including broadband, strengthening protections for workers and expanded access to full, fairly compensated employment, expanded access to capital contracts and counseling for minority-owned businesses, and promoting U.S. foreign policy initiatives in Africa and other countries that are consistent with fundamental rights of human dignity. Now, like I said, combating voter suppression. 46 years. This is part of their agenda for 46 years. Promoting U.S. foreign policy initiatives in Africa and other countries, right? Watch this, Smoke. What did the Congressional Congresswoman Barbara Lee say? She said, where is that? She said, reflecting on many economic, social, and political harms that black community members say need dire attention, Lee said in her closing remark that uniting with both the local and global community of people of African ascent is the only way we're ever going to be free in this country. But the Congressional Black Caucus for 46 years, one of their agendas is promoting U.S. foreign policy initiatives in Africa and other countries that are consistent with the fundamental rights of human dignity. You see what I'm saying? These people ain't talking nothing about economy. All they're doing is talking out their mouth. And everything they say fucking contradicts each other. You want to say we need to link up with all the black people in the diaspora and then on the continent, but yeah, for this 46 years, y'all promote U.S. foreign policies in Africa and in the other African countries that you know fucks them over. If you ain't fighting for black people in America, I goddamn know y'all ain't fighting for black initiatives in Africa and other black countries. I'll bet the house on it. You know what I'm saying? I'll bet the house on it.
It'd be higher in the priorities. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm presuming like the way this is set up, the list in the letter itself is like you're gonna put the priorities first. You know what I'm saying? So
here you go.
They go through is the vote.
So here's the next one. Let's go to the next problem. The CBC calls on the Trump administration to recognize the persistent discrimination against African Americans throughout this nation's troubled history and employ policies and practices to restore these communities. Wait a minute. So y'all gonna ask the president, the racist white president who don't like black people, who y'all the heart and soul of being the resistant movement against for criminal justice reform, when he had the fraternal order police back him, when he's for privatized prisons, but this is the next thing on your list. Okay, fair enough. There goes, in 1971, the year that the Congressional Black Caucus was created, President Nixon declared a war on drugs, which he labeled as public enemy number one in the United States. At the time of this declaration, American prisons and jails held fewer than 200,000 people. Today, that number sits above 2 million. Obviously, black people is incarcerated more than anybody. Black woman is incarcerated more than white woman. Black men is incarcerated more than white men. We get longer prison time, and we get arrested faster than everyone else. We know that the crack epidemic, the policy was incarceration. However, in the face of the opioid epidemic, which is predominantly a white community's issue, public officials on both sides of the aisles band together to pass landmark legislation to provide drug treatment assistance. Before I continue, I would like to say, when the crack epidemic hit the black community, and they're saying that the public policy response was incarceration, let's also say how many black lawmakers signed on for the incarceration of black people. So you can't then turn around, because opioids is affecting predominantly white communities, get mad at white lawmakers for not incarcerating their own and wanting to give them help. You can't then turn around and say that's racist or that's racism. That's the same shit we supposed to be doing. But that's what happened when you're working for your people. That's what happens. Our people don't work for us. They work against us. And then when we get fucked over, how they quell us is by screaming, that's that racism, white supremacy again. And we like, yeah! No. It's fucked up leadership. That's what's going on in the black community. Because trust me, racism, wait till we get our shit together. We're going to see racism. And we're going to have to prepare against racism. But this shit here ain't racism. This shit here is the effects of dumb, fucked up, failed leadership. Let me continue. So we all know the story of us going to jail. Now, the solution. Oh, okay, so they're going to say President Trump has dubbed himself the law and order president and committed to tried and failed policies for the sake of being tough on crime. This is in the letter that they gave Trump. President Trump had dubbed himself, so this taxpayers' money would be better spent in the front end of criminal justice to prevent crimes from occurring in the first place. So if Trump is dubbing himself the law and order president, why would this be the second agenda on your list? The solution. The CBC supports end-to-end reform of our criminal justice system, including policy reform, prisoner reentry support, and every facet in between. Building the bond between police and the communities they serve through comprehensive police reform, end racial profiling, maintain federal supervision of state and local police department, increase the funding for and the eligible use of the cops, and burn JAG programs, invest in community-oriented policing, increase law enforcement diversity, require additional training for police department utilizing military equipment, including the use of force during peaceful protests, require data collecting and reporting, reduce the nation's gun violence, strengthen and expand universal background checks, ban high-capacity firearm, end the cradle-to-prison pipeline and reform the juvenile justice system, invest in prevention and intervention, strengthen protection for youth in the justice system, establish a national commission on the status of black men and boys within the White House, reform the correction system, eliminate federal mandatory minimum sentencing requirements, ensure true sentencing parity among crack and cocaine offenses, deprioritize nonviolent drug offenders, develop and implement best practices for the use of solitary confinement, end the use of private prisons, permanently authorize and fully fund the Second Chance Act. And that's that one. Again, if he's a cop, if he's a president that's screaming he's going to be tough on crime, he was backed by the Fraternal Order Police. He got Jeff Sessions as his Department of Justice person. He encouraged the police to basically use police brutality on alleged suspects, aka black people, and green lighting privatized prisons. Why would that be second on your list? You see what I'm saying? Why would that be second on your list? That's like you telling your girl, yo, you know what? Y'all have a breakup, and it's like, yo, you know what? Let's stop arguing. Let's make up. And you like, yo, for us to make up, I need some of my demands met, yo. Here's my demand. You slap it on the table. A month go by. You don't hear from her, right? And then you see her and shit. You like, damn, yo, why you ain't respond to none of my demands? Your demands is, yo, every Wednesdays I want my balls licked. On Fridays I want a threesome. And I should be allowed to cheat on you at least once every quarter. And it's like, nigga, why the fuck would I be agreeing to any of this shit? You know what I'm saying? And it's like, yo, you ain't agreeing to nothing that I put inside. That's what it sounds like here. We're supposed to be fighting for our interests, and the first two things you have is things that you know you motherfuckers ain't even fucking with. Right? So let's continue. The next one is economic justice. So for 46 years, they was talking about criminal justice system. We read that. That was the second one on the list. Combating voters suppression. That's the second thing on the list. So those two things are definitely their go-to platforms. Now, third on the list is economic justice. Now, I told you that's not the same as economy, right? Economic justice, right? That's a meaningless word. The CBC calls on the Trump administration to address the widening gap between the rich and the poor in this nation and create equal access to economic opportunities for all Americans. So you hear that, right, Smoke? Economic opportunities. That's not the same as economy. When you hear somebody saying and create equal access to economic opportunities, what that sound like to you, Smoke?
I mean, opportunities. It means opportunities in an economy, but being that we don't have one, it pretty much just means jobs.
Right, that's it.
Jobs is somebody else shit, you know what I mean?
I want to create equal access to money opportunities for all Americans. That's all that means. That's all that means. Oh, Amazon got a job and they paying everybody $30 an hour. Black people should have the same rights to get jobs and be hired for these positions as white Americans too. That's all that means. And we walk around economic, not realizing economic don't mean shit if you don't got an economy. If you're part of another man's economy, you're just a workforce. You're never going to have economic power. You're never going to have economic justice. You're a workforce. So they say the problems. The racial wealth gap is widening. The gain wealth compared to whites, high school dropouts, blacks have. Okay, we already know that sing-along story, right? I can read it from Martin Luther King talking about it from 1967. Now the solution. So it goes. The solution. The CBC supports policies that address historic economic disparities and create opportunities to lift all Americans out of poverty and into the middle class and beyond. Now, we already know the middle class is just poor whites. That's all the middle class is poor whites. But once again, black people, we don't know what the hell we're talking about. So it goes, here's some of the solutions. Do not cut taxes for the super rich. They say the House Republican tax plan from fall 2016, a model for Republicans' desired tax reduction for the wealthy, would cut about $3 trillion in revenue from the U.S. Treasury over a decade. Once phased in, this will be a huge tax cut for the wealthy. The top 1% will receive 99.6% of the benefit, according to an analyst by the Nonpartisan Tax Policy Center. The recently introduced American Health Care Act is also a massive taxpayer subsidy to the wealthiest American, cutting their tax burden by $600 billion over 10 years. These resources would be better spent investing in jobs, education, and skill training. Jobs, education, skill training. All of them means the same shit. Working for somebody. This plan will pay for tax cuts for billionaires on the backs of several cuts for programs critical to the poor and middle-class families. Adopt a fair tax code that asks the richest of the rich to pay their fair share to meet the needs of the nations. Implement the Congressional Black Caucus 10-20-30 formula across all agencies. This bold initiative requires federal agencies to commit 10% of their budget to the 485 counties where 20% of or more of the population has been living below the poverty line for the last 30 years. This investment has a broader impact on historically distressed communities. In 2009, these counties were represented in Congress by 43 Democrats and 84 Republicans. The president's fiscal year 2018 budget request proposed drastic domestic spending cuts to programs upon which these communities rely, such as low-income housing energy assistance program. That makes targeting investments in these communities all the more essential. Additionally, the Trump administration should establish a federal interagency task force to coordinate poverty elevation efforts. Address food insecurities by combating food desert. Address food security. Wait. What is this under again? Economic justice. Because you see, when you're not thinking economy and you thinking economics, that's why you'll have this stupid shit under the list. address food insecurity by combating food deserts. Thousands of communities across the country, both urban and rural, lack access to healthy, affordable food. More than 30 million Americans live more than a mile from the nearest grocery store. Providing funds for food banks and nutritional training improves the health of the community. Additionally, the presence of a grocery store can stimulate local economies by creating jobs and anchoring complex retail stores. It's like, yo, is this a Twilight Zone or some shit? Like,
yeah, it's like basically, it's a plan to, like, because we need that. We need help with addressing that issue. But what happens is, instead of us taking advantage of that opportunity, which would jumpstart an economy, if we took advantage of that opportunity, it's just basically like the Black Caucus telling the government, like, hey, bring companies down here or alert companies to this fact so they can come take advantage of this fact. And it's going to help us in the fact that we can get that, we can come patronize their store, and then we'll also provide a workforce for them. Instead of us, instead of our community being that store, it's like we asking for them to bring people down to do that.
Bring them down, and just like you said, and don't you know how much jobs that will create in that community? We'll hear them say that shit like that's a good deal. And here's the sad part about it, Smoke. It says right here in the language, the presence of a grocery store can stimulate local economies, not economics. It says economy. This is the first time it says economies, and this is the fucking sad part about it. They're not even talking about black people. They said the presence of a grocery store can stimulate local economies. So if you know the presence of a grocery store can stimulate local economies, Congressional Black Caucus, then why the fuck aren't you becoming a grocery store in your black communities that is suffering from food deserts so it can stimulate the economy in these communities by creating jobs for the people to work and other people to create jobs based off of the traffic of these black people, and anchoring complementary retail stores. So they just sat there and showed you how you can start your economy and get a local economy thriving based off of a grocery store, and now once mentioned us starting the goddamn economy. Just like you said, Smoke, we're going to ask Trump, this racist, white, Nazi, whatever terms that y'all want to use on Trump, right? We're going to resist his movement, fight against him, while pleading with him that for that's the title, economic justice. One of the bulletin points is to address the food insecurity by combating food deserts. I'm a racist white man talking to the Congressional Black Caucus. Yes, Congressional Black Caucus, y'all have a food desert. How do y'all want to combat it? And then we say, well, if we had more grocery stores in these neighborhoods, then the people won't have to travel so far to get food. That will provide jobs for the local people there, creating more businesses, and can anchor retail. And you know what retail is, right, Smoke? That's for the consumer. That's for the consumer. That's for the black person who's working at the grocery store, and then they can go to the retail store and spend their money there. And guess what? Guess what, Smoke? When you're just a consumer, you can't afford sometimes to sit in a retail store. So guess what I'm going to do, Smoke? I'm going to steal. Guess what the Congressional Black Caucus is going to do for me, Smoke? They're going to make sure there's criminal justice reform. And they're going to eliminate barriers for re-entry. This is this backward-ass shit we dealing with, yo. Now, here's the next bulletin point. Support and expand small business and entrepreneurial opportunities. Increase the Minority Business Administration budget. Oh? Let's read this. This is pretty interesting. Let's see what this is about. Increase the Minority Business Administration budget. First of all, that's supposed to be the first shit on the list. You dig what I'm saying, Smoke? That's supposed to be the first shit on the list. Okay, what do y'all want, black people? Well, yo, we want to increase the Minority Business Administration budget. They said the MBDA has operated with a budget under $40 million for many years. If the administration is serious about boosting investment in minority-owned businesses, it could study ways to expand support for this agency that help minority firms compete in a rapidly marketplace. Unfortunately, the president's fiscal year 2018 budget request completely eliminates funding for the MBDA, the only federal agency solely tasked with supporting minority businesses. The federal agency solely tasked with supporting minority businesses. And then let's read it again. The MBDA has operated under $40 million. So there's a budget for them to support minority businesses. But now we gotta say it. But you know why they gotta support minority businesses, Smoke? Because there's no black economy. There's no black economy. If there's a black economy, we won't need the MBDA. One, we won't need the MBDA to keep supporting us. But two, if the MBDA was allocating $40 million, that wouldn't even be nothing. We'll still try to increase the budget for that, but it wouldn't be no big deal because the economy keeps that money circulating, reinvesting in your own community. But if you don't have an economy and you just got a business, then that means you just got a bunch of niggas working the system. That's it. You just got a bunch of niggas working the system. It says, increase the Small Business Administration's budget and increase the goals of serving small and disenfranchised businesses. This SBA focus on boosting opportunities for small firms via capital, counseling, and contracting programming could use an increase in resource to expand its services. All right. It says black entrepreneurs are ready to expand into new markets at home and abroad if support with sufficient resources. Once again, the reason why small black businesses, capital for all the other shits that we have, the shit don't work, because we're small businesses, because we're individual businesses. You understand what I'm saying? That's why we're small businesses, because we're individual. That's like you Smoke, you got a business, right? And I got a business. That don't mean shit. You know what I'm saying? That don't mean shit. But if you got a business and I got a business within the economy, then it means something. Because guess what? When you see black people now playing dominoes or chess, spades, basketball, and shit like that, we could be having conversations now, you know, opposed to golf. We could be having conversations now where we sit around and shit like, yo, so what's your community looking like? We in a strip club and shit, you know what I'm saying? Or what they call it, the gentleman's club, right? Where all the businessmen go, right? You go there, we have conversations. What's your community look like? What's the employment rate out there? Okay, yeah, you know what, I was thinking about expanding. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to get a little factory over there, and you know what I'm saying, maybe I could pick up the next, you know what I'm saying, like let's say you got a business and you like, yo, you know, I employ, let's say, 10,000 people in my community, my district. Wow. But we got high unemployment in the community. And it's like, cool, I want to expand over there and get a business over there too. Because you got to remember, high unemployment sound bad, right? To a person who's a worker. But to a business person, a place of high unemployment, that's opportunity. All that means is that's a large workforce. That's people willing to work. That means I can open up a business, start, and have everybody working at $9 an hour. And I have people wrapped around the line. You underdig? Because that's a workforce. And the only thing the workforce know how to do is work. You dig? We got to change the way we look at this shit. So, for they saying that black entrepreneurs are ready to expand into new markets at home and abroad if supported with some significant resources, in my opinion, that means you ain't ready to expand. Because if you was ready to expand, then why you need significant resources to expand? You understand what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that, like, you know, it might be somebody that's like, nah, you don't understand, you know, you might need that capital to take your business to another level. I'm not saying that you don't need that. I'm saying if you can't without that, then to me that's a failed model. That's a failed model. If I can't do something,
you're just basically saying you don't want to be dependent on that shit. Pretty much.
That's how I see it. Because if your business can't work,
I'll do that.
You know what I'm saying? Unless somebody else do something for you, I can't call it a good business idea. You don't got no other way. Yo, if I just had $1 trillion, my nigga, all black people would be free.
That means if it's not there, or if it's taken from you, you're gonna suffer.
Exactly, and that means it ain't real. And I can't base my time on a information or idea that's not real. So it goes, expand the SBA 7 microloan program. The SBA microloan program provides loans up to $50,000 to help small businesses start up or grow their firms. These loans could be utilized for work capital, inventory, or supplies, furniture or fixtures, and machinery or equipment. They're saying expand the SBA loans. They're saying that the SBA microloan program provides loans up to $50,000. Up to $50,000. $50,000 is small bread. You know why $50,000 small bread, Smoke? Because remember we having a conversation off that thing that we're working on that we're not going to speak on the show, is that every black man should have at least $10,000 in some type of account, whether it's 401k, something. $10,000 should have that on deck. So that's 5 of your homies, right? Y'all thinking business? 5 of your homies could get you that $50,000 to start your business up. But that's why I said earlier in what we were speaking on, if your business can't start or can't grow or you can't materialize your shit without that loan, you got a failed business, in my opinion. You got a failed business. Now you got yourself in debt because you don't know how to hustle. I never understood a business plan like that. Not saying that taking a loan is bad, but I'm just saying if that's the only choice, I need options. If I could go to the bank, I could go to the bank right now to take out a loan if I want to take out a loan.
All right.
But I also know I could pound the concrete and get money too. You know what I'm saying? On my own and don't owe nobody. So it's like, Then it goes, making the Community Advantage Program at the SBA permanent. The initiative to leverage the SBA 7A loan guarantee program by partnering with the CDFI lenders should be made permanent and expand to increase loans to black small business borrowers. There we go again, borrowers, loans. Require Census Bureau, MBDA, and Small Business Administrations and Federal Reserve Systems to perform annual minority small business census. This would provide sorely needed data on an ongoing basis to inform policy making and business planning efforts nationwide. Require the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau to accelerate its rulemaking to implement Dodd-Frank Act Section 1071 to ensure that financial institutes record data on race and gender or business loan application. Forgive a percentage of student loan debt for entrepreneurs. Support alternative metrics of credit worthiness. Promote crowdfunding as a method of acquiring patient capital. Title III of the Jobs Act of 2012 expanded. That's the Jobs Act is what initiative that Barack did. Expanded the universe of Americans that can invest in small business. Equity providing a more patient form of capital for entrepreneurs while concurrently providing a high yield and investment opportunity for interested individuals. The White House should explore how to best support the use of the crowdfunding platform via innovative policies that are informed by challenges faced by black entrepreneurs. Support a 21st century community development and fintech initiative. Build and strengthen middle neighborhoods across the country. Middle neighborhoods are neglected communities in between growth and decline. These areas are generally more racially diverse with affordable housing and acceptable quality of life. However, they are vulnerable to decline without additional support. A comprehensive approach of rehabilitation and investment protection, these valuable access from unnecessary blight and creates middle-class opportunities. Go ahead, Sloan.
No, I was just laughing at how it says racially diverse. It's like, what about the hood? You know what I'm saying? It's like we keep wanting to go into the middle neighborhoods and middle class and. But
people know middle neighborhoods. What the fuck is middle neighborhoods? Now we already know middle.
That's the first time I ever heard of that.
First time hearing that
terminology.
But I'm gonna break down what middle neighborhoods is. Build and strengthen middle neighborhoods across the country. Middle neighborhoods is pretty much okay. The middle class is white people. We already know that. Middle neighborhood is white neighborhoods that black people moved into to get away from black people. White people who could afford to leave left. whites who couldn't afford to leave had no choice but to stay. So what happened is when white flight happened, white business leaves. And when white business leaves, then what happened is these neighborhoods slowly start to deteriorate into a hood, into a ghetto. And then when they're trying to sit there and be like, wait a minute, this is not a ghetto, you know what I'm saying? This is a diverse neighborhood and we're, you know what I'm saying? And they're trying to fight. And that's why they're saying that without additional support, these neighborhoods will decline. Why would these neighborhoods decline? What is a middle neighborhood? What is a middle class? What is all these terms? See, that's the result of not having the economy. You see what I'm saying? Because if you don't have an economy, then guess what your neighborhood is based upon, whether these people have a job or not. That's what it's based upon. So if you live in a neighborhood where 10 people live there and 10 people got a job, then guess what? You live in a nice class. You might even say middle class. Now, 3 people lose their job. That was 3 homes in foreclosure. 7 people work. Another 3. That's 4 people working. See what I'm saying? Now the community getting a little more depressed. Because now it's a little bit of people working, more people not working. Now it's going to be renters instead of owners. What people don't understand is when there's more renters instead of owners, that means there's less money going to the school, the local school. Because the local school gets funded by property value. Yeah, because they don't pay the tax right. That's how this whole system and this whole game work. That's why economy is so important. That's why it's so important, because the economy solves all of our problems. The economy solves our problem. Not having an economy creates our problems. But because we don't want to accept the fact that not having an economy is the reason why we have these problems, what happens is we end up wanting to solve the problems of not having an economy. You know what I'm saying? That's the whole thing. That's like you screwing a bunch of chicks raw, no condom or nothing, and you keep and you getting all these goddamn diseases. You're not going to the doctor, but every time a sore or a blister or some shit happen, you try to treat that symptom. And you're like, damn, why my dick leaking again? Okay, I got something for that. You know what I'm saying? You're like, God damn, I got this swelling over here, and man, this rash over here, and I got this itching cream to handle the itching. And it's like, no, it's a bigger problem. You know what I'm saying? And if you just solve that bigger problem, then everything else or the other issues you have goes away. But if you don't solve the bigger problem and you just try to solve all the issues you're dealing with, it ain't never gonna go away. Because the bigger problem is why. It's a cause and effect. We're dealing with the effect of the causes. You know what I'm saying? So once again, we don't have nothing being said about economy, right? Nothing being said about economy. Everything's being said about asking for people to do for us and to help us to rebuild ourselves, knowing good and damn well they're not going to do that. They say, ensure equal access to home ownership opportunities. Protect funding at the Department of Housing of Urban Development. HUD? You mean HUD? The same HUD that Ben Carson was head of? Is head of that HUD? Look at this, smoke. The same HUD that when Ben Carson was the head of HUD, everybody dissed Ben Carson?
Yeah. And also, like, when it's saying, like, access to, access to doesn't necessarily guarantee that you're going to be able to participate in it. Oh. Access just means that you have the same ability as anybody else to be able to get the program. You know what I'm saying? Right. You can fill the same form out that everybody else fill out. You know what I'm saying? There's no special process. There's nothing there that's guaranteeing something for the black community. So as long as it's saying that, you know, any Joe Schmo can go to the local office and fill out a paper or go online and put in their information, that's really just having access to it. That's what I'm seeing.
Yeah. And the funny thing about it is, I didn't even think about that. Yeah. Expand, access to, these not even real words. Economic empowerment. Since reading this, Smoke, economies. That's the first time economy was mentioned. And it wasn't even in reference to black people. It was in reference to a supermarket being built in a black community and how that supermarket can help local economies in that neighborhood. Then they talk education. We already know black people, we bad when it comes, we disparaging against whites when it comes to education. We already know that. So one of his programs, his solutions is provide, once again, it's your word, I don't want to skip that, Smoke. The CVC calls on the Trump administration to ensure every man, woman, and child has equal access to a quality education. Then he goes, provide universal high-quality preschooling to all children. Provide universal high-quality preschool to all children. What? That's not, education don't even work like that. Education don't even work like that. You can send your son, Smoke, to a university, high quality. Your son in elementary school still, right?
Yeah.
So you can send your son to a universal, high quality elementary school. That don't mean shit for your son. Cause when he go back home, if he ain't getting that shit reinforced at home, that don't mean shit.
Yeah, but what is high quality? Like, what is that? That's just worded. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's all subjective and shit. Like, what somebody might determine as high quality.
And you know why it's subjective? Because it all has to do with economy. What the fuck do I need to know about gases and butane and different fucking chemistry experiments? What I need to know all of that for if I'm trying to work in the mailroom? Or if I'm trying to work in a call center? Or if I'm trying to be a manager of a mailroom? Or the manager of a fucking call center? Like, none of that shit means shit. You see, high quality, universal education makes sense. And this is what the Umar Johnson listeners need to understand. It only makes sense if you have an economy. Because then you have some place to apply your universal high quality schooling at. Then your parents understand why it's important to reinforce this universal high quality schooling. But if you're fighting to provide children with access to universal high quality schooling and you don't have an economy as a foundation, then all you're doing is educating individuals to work within a white man's workforce economy so we can be high-paid consumers. And that ain't freedom. Provide federal funding for K through 12 education in lieu of property taxes. Did I just say that, Smoke?
Yeah.
Did I just say that? We don't understand the game. See, so it goes, provide federal funding for K through 12 education in lieu of property taxes. Funding public schools with property taxes exacerbates the inequity among school resources. Communities with higher property values have more resources, while low-income communities lack the tax revenue to provide quality education. Federal funding will help level the playing field and prevent a child's zip code from dictating their access to a quality education. No. All that's going to do is keep black people dependent on the goddamn government because we don't understand the game. Then we start to think things is given to us. Right? Like, I remember one Smoke, my girl, she told me, right, this was the first year I'm filing, you know what I'm saying, for my son and stuff. So she was like, yeah, well, I think I should get half of the tax money. And I'm like, half? Why the hell would you think you would get half of my tax money? So then she was like, oh, because the government give you, and I said, whoa. The government don't give me shit. I said, that's the money that the government take out of my check. And what I got to do is I have to fight to get as much of that money back from the government. That's how this game works. The government don't give me a motherfucking thing. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, we don't, so the point of me saying that is, we don't get the game. We don't know what goes on. If we knew that that's what tax season really is you fighting the government to get, that's like a nigga went and he taking money from you all year, and then when it's time for you to get it back, he like, all right, well, how much I owe you then? And you like, damn, I had to keep up. Nigga,
you know how much it took?
That's like when nigga, you tell me. So now you gotta write down now. January, you borrowed this amount. I got all the receipts on all the times that, and you gotta write all that shit down. And then I'm gonna look at this shit, and I'm gonna be like, nigga, I don't remember owing you all of this, and that's how the government shit works. We're fighting to get our money back from the government. That's literally how the game goes. The niggas, they take our money from us, and then at the end of the year, your great-ass Uncle Sam says to you, "No, what you said I owe you again?" And we got to prove that this is what you took, and this is why I need this money back. Like, nigga, this is what it is. That's how, so if you understand that, you're not going to be excited talking about, unless you get in the system, you're not going to be excited talking about, ooh, I got 8,000 back. That means the government probably done took 10, 11,000 from you. Look, 10, 11,000 from you out of what? You making 30,000 a year? And the government done took 11,000 out of your 30,000 out the year? Come on, you know what I'm saying? Look how we living. Credit cards. How long you been hearing this, Smoke? Oh, we got to keep credit cards for in case of an emergency. But a credit card is a bank loan. That's what a credit card is. It's a bank loan. All the time the emergency doesn't happen, you're supposed to be stacking your money for in case an emergency happens. Not blowing your bread and then taking out a bank loan to pay something off. That don't make sense. But then they tell you it's a credit card, though. They're not going to tell you, because, see, you're not going to do that for a payday loan. You see what I'm saying, Smoke? You ain't going to sit over there chilling with your people and be like, damn, yo, I want me a beer, yo. Yo, you know what? I know what I'm going to do. Let me go to the title loan, pawn my car off, and get me a beer. And when I get paid Friday, I'll just pay back the title loan people and get my title back for my car. You're not going to do that. Saying that makes no sense. If you're smart, you ain't going to do that. That makes zero sense. But we do that every day with credit cards. Every day with credit cards. We buy some dumbest bag of chips. Niggas charging for a bag of chips. You know what I'm saying? Niggas charging for blunts and beer and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, you know, you're paying interest on that. That's a loan. You went to the bank, my nigga, to take a loan out for a box of blunts. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You took a loan out at the bank for a fucking box of blunts. So it's like, when you understand how the game really goes, then you understand why certain things happen. You see what I'm saying? Then you understand that. Then you're going to be screaming racism and all this dumb shit. Now, I said earlier, with the economy, when you don't got an economy, all you're doing is working, all it takes is for you to lose your job, and guess what? You went from a home owner to a home loser. You know what I'm saying? Because you ain't going to have a home anymore because you can't afford the payments. That home gets foreclosed on. That neighborhood now have a foreclosed home. That neighborhood now, that house going to get owned by a bank and get rented. Or if you're in a neighborhood where you own your home, but you noticing that there's an increase of people renting, and the homeowners are selling or renting their house out and they moving out, it's time for you to leave. Because if you're a renter, property value drop, and all of those renters, they're not paying those property taxes that's going to go, right, so your property value drop, and all these renters now, they're not paying the property taxes that's going to be provided to your damn school that's going to provide
the homeowner's still paying it, but the property values is lower.
Right.
So with the property value lower, the taxes going to be lower. So it's less for the schools and shit.
Less for the schools, and it's lower and all of that shit because of the renters. It's renters, there's no economy there. If there's no economy there, that's why it's just workers there. I'm only moving out there because there's work. Once there's no more work in the area, guess what workers do? The workforce do. The workforce move, and they look for another area. And they say, oh, shit, there's more jobs on the east side. And then everybody on the west side moves to the east side. Everybody from the south side moves to the north side. That's how the game goes. And everybody goes up there, we need affordable housing. We need affordable housing. All that equates to renting. We need a workforce up here, and they need a place to stay while they work and bust their ass. So that means there's no foundation. That's the end result of not having an economy. But when you have an economy, guess what? That's stability. So that's a stable workforce. That's a stable industry. That's a stable economy. That's a stable dollar moving. That's stable local. That's stimulating the local economy. That's people moving there to stay, not moving there to rent. People are going to move there to live because they recognize that shit. This neighborhood over here is booming. Jobs, economy, the people, everybody down here works. They're owners. That's a thriving economy. Like Smoke said earlier, now your property value increases. Now there's more money going to your police force, your fire force, your school system. Now your schools can afford to get the higher quality, universal this is and that's to give your children a better education in the schools and things of this nature. Now when these kids graduate from school for all this universal higher quality information, they can now apply that into the economy and make it stronger and revolutionize the economy into techs and things of this nature. But when you don't have an economy, everything falls apart. Everything falls apart. And then they say communities with higher property value have more resources, while low-income communities lack the tax revenue to provide quality education. Why are you low income? Because guess what? If I'm a businessman, I want cheap labor. I don't want expensive labor. I want cheap labor. So if I have cheap labor, then guess what the fuck your income going to always be? So let me read the rest. Increase after-school programs and mentorship opportunities. All of this is the effects of not having an economy. Support historically black colleges and universities. All of this is because we don't got an economy. Expand and increase Pell Grant funding. Address college affordability, increase the Title II funding, provide tax incentives for school infrastructure investment. Education infrastructure investment put Americans to work building modern, safe schools that provide children with a world-class educational experience. The tax credit financing model has been utilized by many, even President Donald Trump, to rehabilitate buildings for use. A similar approach could be employed to rehabilitate the aging public school infrastructure. Then they got workforce. The CBC calls for the Trump administration to strengthen protections and improve opportunities for all American workers while investing in the 21st century workforce. Before I continue, let me make sure. Reinforcing the criminal justice system, check. Combating voter suppression, check. World-class education, check. Now, workforce. Strengthening protections for workers and expanding access to full. So that means literally, the Black Congressional Congress gave Trump the same stale-ass shit they've been pumping for 46 years. I just realized that. The same stale shit that they've been pumping for 46 years is basically what the hell they look, healthcare, environmental justice. You gotta be fucking shitting me. Criminal justice, voter suppression, world-class education, healthcare, workers. Okay, environmental justice is not on the list. I don't even know what the fucking environmental justice is. The CBS called for Trump administration to guarantee the most basic rights of clean air, water, and soil to every American. Okay, so that's the Flint shit. But again, that's economy again. That's economy. Because guess who made the decisions that fucked up the waters in Flint, Jersey, and all throughout the United States? All these politicians on the board. All the politicians on the board. The Congressional Black Caucus is historically 49 members. Is on the Congressional Black Caucus. Historic numbers. Why the fuck are not passing legislation to handle this? Y'all don't even have to ask. They want to revitalize rural America. Talking about rural African Americans have the highest poverty rate of 33.8%, while rural white Americans have the lowest to 15%. You know why? Because rural whites have a goddamn economy. We need an economy. Invest. Everything is invest. Everything is access. Everything is asking somebody to do for you. So as he sits here and asks Trump to do this, and Trump doesn't respond to them, They never fought, Smoke. They never fought. He said he was pissed with Trump because Trump never even addressed their stale 46-year-old plans. So he never even fought. He never even talked about it. He said, here's my plans, address it. And if you don't address it, we ain't got nothing to talk about. This is ridiculous. Niggas turns around and said, we are the heart and soul of the resist Trump movement, and then turns around and says that Trump turned a deaf ear to black America. No, y'all didn't fight for black America. While Trump is constantly screaming, black America, black America, black America, how are we going to help black America? Hey, April Rye, do you know the members of the Black Caucus? Let's set up a meeting, let's talk. Everybody, oh no, that's not my job. Oh, he's talking to me like I'm supposed to because I'm black. I'm supposed to know the members of the Black Congressional Party. You are supposed to know. You know why you're supposed to know? Why she was supposed to know? One, because she's a fucking oppressed journalist, a White House journalist. You're supposed to know who the fucking Congressional Black Caucus is. You know why she's supposed to know who the members of the Congressional Black Caucus is? Because they're supposed to represent African Americans. So if they're supposed to represent African Americans, then why the fuck would you turn around on television and say, oh, I guess Trump thinks because I'm black, I'm supposed to know I could just hook up meetings with the black... Like, you saying that, like, that's a dumb idea. You're supposed to. If these people represent us, that's why we're in the position that we're in, Smoke. That's why we're in the position. This shit ain't no racism, white supremacy. This shit ain't no fucking powerful white man. This is failed black leadership. These are dumb decisions that was made for us in the past, and we dealing with the outcomes of this shit. And because nobody want to say to themselves, it's our failed leadership. We praise our failed leadership. And then we sit there and hit it. That's like right now, you got a parent, a father and a mother. The mother, she pregnant. She smoking cigarettes, drinking beer, smoking weed, popping pills, doing all, pop mollies, all that shit. You know what I'm saying? Father in and out of jail. The kid gets older, learning disabilities, really violent, aggressive. He's in and out of juvie and shit. And then people like, yo, you know what we got to do with that boy right there is, and they start looking at all his issues, right? And they start telling the parents, well, see, I think he's suffering from depression, and if y'all put him on these pills for depression, and if y'all give him this book on Hotep to learn about who he was as African gods, and those are results of bad parenting. You dig what I'm saying? Those are the results of drug use while I was a baby. Those were the results of my father not being in my life. He in and out of jail, and that's what led me down that same path. You can't sit there and say you don't understand. White America can't understand the plights of the black child. These black kids out here, people don't. When they see the black kid, they want to run. You know why they want to run from the black child? Because they know that the black youth ain't nothing but fucking criminals. Why they know the black youth ain't nothing but criminals? Because they listen to it on the radio. With us glorifying being criminals. They look at it on the television shows and our YouTube series of us glorifying being criminals. Then you got people like Maxine Waters who says, I was against Dolores Tucker when she was saying, yo, come on, this rhetoric right here is going to have our boys in jail. I was against her because I'm for freedom of speech, and I felt like this would financially be good for the black community. So the pennies that we get for exploiting our community and railroading our boys into jail does what? Got the Congressional Black Caucus able to have an agenda to fight for reforming the criminal justice system. This shit is ridiculous. Every caucus you read speaks for their own group of people. We talk about our caucus speaks for everybody. But everybody else's caucus speaks only for theirs. But we wonder why we're in the position that we're in? Because of Trump and racist white supremacy and Nazis and Confederate flags and statues of fucking Confederate soldiers. That's the reason why? It's our failed leadership. Failed black leadership. So we can't look to our athletes. We can't look to our entertainers. We can't look to our politicians. We have to look at ourselves. We are humans. We have to look at ourselves. Black man, it's time for you to step the fuck up. They're getting too pretty nowadays. Too pretty. Y'all gotta get your hands back in the dirt. Stop getting your fingers manicured, black man. Go back to being the black man who had dirt underneath his nails. Not dirt underneath his nails from scratching his ass all day. Dirt underneath his nails from having his hand in that dirt, in that concrete, pounding that ground, making that money materialize from a dream. But that's In Black America Radio. Thanks for listening. Thanks for the support. We have a Patreon account also. We're going to advertise that. We're working on it. Working on a couple of other things behind the scenes, you know what I'm saying, to really get some, to generate some income also off of this information, because we wanna show you what you do with bread. You see what I'm saying? I don't know Umar Johnson making up schools. We need industry. We need businesses. We need things that's going to produce things that we can trade with others so we can have economic power. You cannot have economic power without an economy. That's like you having sex without genitals. It can't happen. You know what I'm saying? So I think that might be the best example I can give. You know what I'm saying? Having saying that you got economic power and talking all this economic empowerment and economic. You cannot have economic nothing without an economy. You can't. That's just, like I said, it's just having sex, but you don't got no genitals. How the hell you having sex? But you talking about sexual urges and sex this and sex that and freaky this and all kind of shit, and it's like, how you talking about all of that and you ain't even got no genital? Get a genital first. You know what I'm saying? Then you can talk about having sex. But you don't even got the autonomy. Is that the word? You don't even got the autonomy. Huh? Oh no, yeah. Yeah, it's not you don't even got the anatomy. Do what you're supposed to be doing. You see what I'm saying? But you're speaking on it. That's how we are. We don't have the anatomy, which is called economy, to do what we're doing. But yeah, we're speaking on economics. That's how I know we don't know what we're talking about. When we talk economics, all we're talking about is money and jobs and working. That's it. And we got to stop that. But we're going to show you how to do this, son. But that's In Black America Radio. It's your host, Rasta B. Smoke, you want to send some shout-outs and love to the people out there?
Yo, man. 2 days in a row, man. Full weekend. Shows will be posted soon. Another week in the building.
Yeah, we out here, man. As always, you visit us on that Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, In Black America Radio, In Black America, In Black America. We out here. Check us out. We're not coming with the same information. We're not coming with the same perspective. We're not coming with the same angle. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, when you listen to us, you're going to screw your face up. You're going to get mad. You're going to say, what the hell are they talking about? But at the end, you're going to say, I got to listen again. But until next time, appreciate the listen. Peace and Black Power.
I'm in the street. All I know is that first